Welcome back to Hoopsville. I am now located actually at Franklin and Marshall in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, as we have the season debut of this show. Don't forget, we'll be on the air most Thursdays up until Christmas from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Then we start our Sunday and Thursday line of programming from January all the way to the end of the season. Of course, follow us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or using the hashtag Hoopsville. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Email us at hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Of course, there's a chat room alongside the player as well, and we welcome you to take advantage of that and interact with us as best as you can. Since I am in Franklin and Marshall in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, this is pre-taped, and I am now joined by the winningest coach in Division III history, Glenn Robinson, head coach for the Franklin and Marshall Diplomats, and first and foremost, Coach. Now, we haven't really had a chance to say it, but congratulations on all those wins. It's been a long career, but certainly a fruitful one for you.
Thank you very much, Dave. As we all know, it's all about the players.
Yeah.
No coach wins a single game, makes a single shot, or gets a rebound. So it's all about the players.
I think some coaches would like to, though. I think they'd like to get out there and make all those plays.
There was a day when I would like to have gotten out there. I don't think I would right now.
Of course, in the offseason, you were inducted into the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. That's got to be a pretty nice tip of the hat for you as well.
It is. It's a tremendous honor, and I basically accepted it on behalf of all the players and assistant coaches that I've had over the years. We all know that one person doesn't do anything that special. It takes a whole team.
The spotlight has certainly been on you and the program. In the last few years, Franklin and Marshall has been very good. I mean, you went through a little bit of a lull there where the Diplomats weren't in the national conversation after being in the conversation all the time. Now you're kind of back to being in the conversation all the time. But you're in an interesting conference. The Centennial few years ago when it was Ursinus and yourselves and some others, even Johns Hopkins, it was a battle on top. Last couple of years, it's kind of lulled out a little bit. You've been at the top, but everybody else has kind of, faltered a little bit. Last year, you got a challenge. And unfortunately, that challenge left you guys out of the NCAA tournament for the first time in a few years. How's the team responding to that? How have you guys adapted to the conference?
Well, we're used to being in a tough conference. I would say it's been very difficult and very competitive, way more than it hasn't been. And, we've been challenged over the last 40 years a great many times. And I think what happened last year was more the norm than something that's abnormal. And we've just got to get our act going. I don't think we were left out of the NCAAs because of losing the conference championship in the playoff when we won the regular season. I think we were left off because we lost 3 games during the year that clearly we shouldn't have lost.
Sure.
And, they look at your whole body of work, and I agreed. I didn't think we should have gotten in given those losses.
Of course, you look at the conference. You have Dickinson, Gettysburg, yourselves. You never can count out Washington College. You never know what Johns Hopkins will throw at you. Ursinus, it depends on the team and the day. McDaniel, Coach Curley could always throw a curveball at you. And last year was the proof that you got to be ready for every game because Washington College got you guys. They hadn't won a game. You knew that was a big one for them. But as you point out, it's competitive. And last year, I think in some ways, you talk about the 3 games they shouldn't have lost. It seems like that really plays out more and more nowadays.
Well, it's competitive top to bottom. I mean, at the time that we played Washington, they hadn't won a game that year. But it's always difficult playing down in Chestertown.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tough ride, and then when you get there, for some reason or other, you don't seem to play your best there, and they do. I mean, we shouldn't take anything away from them. They play really hard.
Yeah.
And if you're not on top of your game, you can have a game like that. We still had the last shot to win it. And, had a great opportunity to score to somehow salvage the thing.
It was a good luck.
And we didn't. So they earned it. They deserve it. And I tip my hat to them. I don't think that there's anything that they did where they shouldn't be congratulated for the win. It's just that if you go by the records and you go by the seasons that we were having, that's a game we should win.
Let's talk about the Mid-Atlantic region. For a few years now, the Mid-Atlantic hasn't been one of the better regions in the country. It has changed dramatically. The MAC, especially the Commonwealth side, has gotten much better. The CAC certainly has top teams, as you know, in St. Mary's, Wesley, now Christopher Newport will enter the fray. The Landmark Conference with Catholic and Scranton and others. The Mid-Atlantic on the top has gotten much more competitive. Have you seen that difference, whether on the sideline or in the office?
Well, I think it's a bit of a cycle, just like the Centennial. I think if you go back a number of years, we were definitely major players in the nation. I mean, we've been to 5 Final Fours,
Right.
and we've had other teams from the Centennial and the MAC that have gotten to the Final Four. So it's historically been a strong region. And I just think everything is different now. Instead of having regional autonomy where you got 8 teams in and you knew that from the beginning of the year, now it's you get your automatics, and then who knows after that, and then you don't know how the matchups are going to go. You could be paired with people from the South, the Atlantic, the Northeast. I mean, it's just all over the map, and a lot of times that's what depends on how you advance. How the matchups go, where the games are being played, and you could have a very strong team in a very good year, and because of those seedings, just get knocked out early.
Of course, a couple of years ago, you guys were hosting the Sweet 16 Elite 8 here. You beat Amherst, a beat-up Amherst team in the Sweet 16 game. Then you take on an MIT game, of course, team that goes on to beat you guys. Of course, you guys were beat up in that game. But the home court has always been something of a trademark for Franklin and Marshall. How important is the home court in your mind?
Well, I mean, we're proud of our record on the road, but there's no question we'd rather play at home.
Yeah.
Given our choice, we'll play at home. I think it's because of the atmosphere. We have great fans. As you know, we pack the place when we get to those playoffs, and it's a tremendous atmosphere for college basketball. Our kids enjoy it, and I just think we're more comfortable here, like almost every team. And we've just had so many notable games here over the years.
Well, yeah, a lot of notable games. I've even been able to come to a few of them. It's been pretty good basketball here. Let's quickly talk about your schedule. Over the last few years, more and more top regional and non-regional teams have been added. You played Worcester, you played Transylvania. This year you've got the chance of either Middlebury or Alvernia. That's a heck of a first game here at the Major Center. Of course, I see you avoided that game. Let's see who is beat up to play in the second game. Smart coaching, if I do say so myself. But you've also got St. Mary's still on your schedule. You're doing the home and homes with them. You're adding all of these other top contenders. Has it been a mental change in how you schedule, or has it been happenstance?
Well, no, it's we've always tried to play top teams. If you look at our tournaments over the past 20 years, I mean, you'll basically see top 25 ranked teams year after year after year. And, we've played St. Mary's over the years. I think they have trouble getting games because of their location and also because they're really a tough opponent. Yeah. And we tend to like to play people like that. So this year's probably the toughest ever, but not for lack of trying in other years. Yeah. And, as you mentioned last year, we had those. I mean, the year before we had some really tough New York teams, and we got thrown a curveball. We scheduled a team we played in the NCAA tournament, and then the following year they had lost everyone and had a terrible year. But we tried to schedule a really good team.
And that's the challenge of scheduling sometimes. I mean, you have to look 2 years in advance. You almost have to be a soothsayer.
Yeah, I mean, you do the best you can, and not only that, just because you invite a team to play doesn't mean they're going to.
Right.
And we have 18 conference games, so there's not that much flexibility. But we do try to load up with the very best teams we can find.
Let's talk about the team a little bit. 2 years ago, or last season, I should say, dealing with losing some good players, especially at the top. This year, you're dealing with losing another set of decent players, especially this time in the middle and in the paint. How's this team look? It almost feels from an outsider's point of view like it's really a new team, a new program that may be a little untested.
Well, we're semi-untested, but on one hand, we have 4 starters returning, even though we lost 3 starters. And luckily, we get to play 7, and the other team only gets to play 5.
Home court advantage all over again.
I mean, the 3 guys we lost are going to be very difficult to replace. And in a lot of cases, you don't really replace them. You just do it differently with what you have that year. I feel good about our team right now. We haven't been tested. We haven't played any of these teams. And frankly, I wish our opening tournament was a little bit easier. I mean, every team in it is very, very good. 2, of course, are nationally ranked.
Right.
So, we're going to find out early on what we're made of. But I think we're going to be a lot better in January. As you know, the Centennial starts a week later than most of the country. Right. And that really hurts you at this time of the year. And then we only get 1 scrimmage, and our scrimmage was terrific, but we had 2 injured players that couldn't play in that. And so they're going to be really raw and green going into this first game, even though they're semi-experienced players. all things said, I think we're going to have a good team. Whether we'll be really solid at the very beginning of the year is still in question.
So does that almost set up a scenario that you need to just go and win this conference?
Well, I think that's always the case. Yeah. There are more and more automatics and fewer at-large bids, especially Pool C bids. So to go into a season thinking that you're going to build up to get a Pool C bid is really an erroneous thought. No one should do that.
And a curveball for you, you used to be on the committees way back in the day, as it were. Ever thought about jumping back on the racks and maybe even go on to a national committee again?
Well, I mean, I loved the experience. It was absolutely tremendous all the way around. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, the way it's done now, the committee has less and less input. You're just fed numbers that are coming from the computer. As you know from past conversations with me, I'm completely against the amount of weight put on what they call the strength of schedule index, and the fact that it's used not only to get the teams but then to break ties with the team. It's just used too much for the number that it is. And so I just felt like put good basketball people on the committee, have a list of criteria that you use, not one or two, but 5 or 6, and really take a look at the body of work with people that are familiar with the teams, as opposed to letting a computer do it. I would have thought that the BCS and all the problems picking national champions by way of a computer would have taught everybody, but evidently not.
Well, we keep adding criteria, so you never know. It's something maybe added that'll work. Well, I appreciate your time, certainly, and appreciate you letting us use your floor, as it were, here at the Mazer Center. Congratulations once again on the achievements of the past. Good luck for the achievements of the future. We'll certainly be looking forward to Friday's games and then Saturday's games as well. As always, I give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, as I've said before, I think that our venue, Mazer Center here at Franklin and Marshall, and the teams that we have provide just a great place to watch Division III basketball. So anybody that's close by, come on out and witness it. This weekend will certainly be no exception to that rule.
Yeah, so if you're in the Mid-Atlantic region, you've got nothing better to do, head over to the Mazer Center for some good basketball. And, of course, a shameless plug, as always, we've been trying to get F&M to the games, and we someday will be successful. Check out the Hoopsville Classic on the second weekend of the season as well. Coach Glenn Robinson, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll be back with more Hoopsville coming up, including talking to both committee chairs on the men's and women's side. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. We'll be back right after this.